what we're going to do tonight, last week's call, I would kind of consider this almost like a transition Fitme family meeting these past few weeks, because we've been going through very practical, like, hey, like, how do we get out of a meal prep rut? Like, what do we need to do for strength training? Like, why does it matter? All the things that help us build confidence and consistency so that we can reach our goals and we can feel our best. And that's normally what our Sunday calls are. We've done kind of a series of calls over the past couple of weeks that I feel like are a little bit different vibe. So the Fitme weekend call was about owning your journey. That was like, okay, this isn't my coach's thing. This isn't my family's thing. This is my thing. What do I need to do to go from being passive and like hoping this kind of happens to me versus like, this is my journey. I own it. You know, what am I focused on this week, and like proactively pursuing it. So that was sort of like transition call number one. And then last week, we really broke down what confidence and consistency means. When we're measuring that with our Fitme score, what are we even talking about? And we really talked about what does that mean? What are we trying to work towards? We're trying to understand what to do. We're trying to create systems in our life where we can do it consistently, where we can go from maybe 2 days a week of healthy breakfast to like 5 days a week and really have something measurable that's different. And then building sort of what I jokingly called last week, the confidence sandwich. So building confidence of knowing what to do, building the consistency, and then having the confidence to be able to return to it when life throws you curveballs, whether that's just normal life like vacation or travel or busyness, or something hard or challenging like surgery. Do you have the confidence that you can return to that consistency? And so that was like the confidence sandwich: confidence, consistency, and then confidence. And so this week, I'm going to kind of label this the last of our sort of transition week before we dive straight back into the practical, because this is going to be another thinking call. When someone joins, and you guys all, when you joined Fitme, I asked you this question, and I thought it would be helpful that we could talk about it live on this call, and you could share it, and we could go through some of the more common ones. Whenever someone joins Fitme or coaching, I always ask them, what are your biggest obstacles? What stops you from following through and doing this on your own or with help? And so what I want to do is maybe have you guys put in the chat box some of your obstacles. And what I'm talking about obstacles are, you have intentions for this week. So say you're like, yep, this is what I'm going to do, blah, 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 blah. And then what stops you from doing it? What is your personal biggest roadblock keeping you from building the consistency? Like focusing specifically on, you know what to do, right? I hear this a lot too. I know what to do. I just don't do it. So if you know what to do, you kind of have a plan, because you're like, I know kind of how I'm going to be putting this into my week, but then it doesn't happen. Why doesn't it happen? And let's talk about some of that and come up with some strategies for handling obstacles, because they're real. So Julie put her husband as an obstacle. I like that that was listed at the top of the list. People can absolutely be an obstacle. So I want you guys to list them, and then we're going to go through them. Megan, burnt out and exhaustion. I want to hear more about these. So Megan, tell me what you mean when you're talking about burnout and exhaustion. Tell me exactly how that stops you from following through. If you can unmute. If you can't, then just throw that in the chat. Or Julie, you can start with yours. You said your husband. Why don't you tell us what you mean?
I got a new phone, so I'm trying to figure out how all the buttons work on the new phone on Zoom now. My husband, like, I'll have good intentions for making dinner and whatnot and something healthy, and then he'll like, no, we're gonna have pizza, or we're gonna, you know, go to the donut shop, or and the donuts are really hard for me too. So the biggest thing is it revolves around food, dinner, lunch, and He wants something else. So
Does he know what your plan is?
it's hard to say no to some of those things.
Mm-hmm. Julie, have you talked
Yes,
to him
he does.
about
And
your plan?
actually, it is much better than it was at the beginning of the year. Yes, it's much better than it was at the beginning of the year. So it has progressively gotten better knowing what I want to do. Communication really is key here.
Well, that's good. It sounds like it's moving in the right direction, at least.
It is.
That's great. Do you have fun things planned with him that are in that category? If he really enjoys certain kinds of foods, have you maybe tried having like a date night planned where you guys go out and you have pizza and or burgers and milkshakes and you kind of do it up and just enjoy it together if he enjoys that? And that way he can be more committed to sticking to the plan on just like a regular day.
No, we're pretty much homebodies, so we spend a lot of time at home. The pandemic didn't help that. Now we spend even more time at home. We used to go out and do date night, but now we have a 1.5-year-old. Yeah. And yes, we can get someone to watch her, but I don't know. It's just, we're homebodies. We like to be at home. So we'll order pizza and go pick it up or go get hamburgers or whatever. But thankfully, as the year has progressed, as I said, it's gotten better, mostly because he wants to eat better. He doesn't want to be eating all the crappy food either. So his mindset is slowly changing as well.
Well, even if you're homebody date night, I still think the same concept applies. Like sometimes it helps to have something to look forward to, especially if you enjoy, if pizza's a treat or burgers or something like that, where you just want to have that. It might help to have that planned into your week or your month where you're like, hey, this is going to be our like pizza and movie night. And so we don't need to order pizza tonight. It's Tuesday. We have pizza night scheduled for Sunday. Like we're having, what I plan to eat.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about like planning it in as opposed to just doing it when he wants to do it. So
it just might help him be on board, and then you guys can still enjoy that together, but it'll just happen less frequently.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like I said, it's gotten better as the years progressed.
That's great. It's funny. Sarah wrote in the chat box, my husband just sarcastically said, I hate that because that's him all the time. The sabotagers. And Paige wrote she might have Paige wrote she might have a decent plan for food, but depending on the day may not feel like cooking, and husband buys takeout and it's on the counter. That can be an obstacle for sure. Paige, do you have a problem just being like, go ahead and eat your takeout food? I'm eating this. Does that feel hard?
It did initially, of course, because it smells good when you walk in and you're hungry. However, I have just learned over, with Fitme, that the more consistent I am, it really doesn't bother me. I just do what I'm going to do. I cook enough for the entire family. And if my husband wants something else, have at it. The kids typically, of course, not all kids love pizza, but if I cook something, my kids will eat it. They would rather eat something that I cook versus the burgers from whatever fast food joint or the pizza from wherever. So, now Troy just knows that he might order something, and instead of just assuming that I'm going to eat and he ordering me something, he won't order me anymore. And if he does order me something, it's a salad with everything on the side in case I want it.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. I've never asked. He just has started to learn that I'm not eating his crappy food. And the difference between like what Megan said and Troy is Troy isn't interested in changing his food ways. Like he's not interested in eating vegetables or eating healthy. And, I can't change that. So I just do my own thing. And I've learned that if I want it, then I'm going to eat it and really enjoy it. But if I don't, I'm sticking with my plan. I'm going to eat what I have in the fridge.
I really like that share. I mean, there's definitely a balance, right? Where it's like you guys can support each other. It sounds like he gets it. He's bringing you salad, you know, that you might want. He's not pressuring you to eat the fast food. But on the other hand, you had to come to terms with, I don't want to eat that way. And he doesn't want to change, and that's okay. Yeah, at the end of the day, unless you want to like split up over fast food, it might just have to be a thing where you're like, you know what, it's okay. We don't have to do the same thing all the time. I do agree with you though. I think that kids tend to come along eventually. And so, and even partners can come along eventually. Your spouse might finally be like, yeah, I'll just have that with you.
So I will share, you know, I've been drinking water. Obviously, I can drink water before Fitme, but clearly consistently pretty much 125 ounces of water a day, every single day. And my boys now, both 24 and 20, carry a gallon water jug. And I will offer, hey, do you guys want a LaCroix? Do you want a Diet Coke? Do you want whatever might be in the fridge? No, I got my water. They pretty much consistently only drink water now. And that's not because I asked them to. I think that's just, they see me drinking water and now they've adjusted and they drink water. So
That's
I don't
awesome.
know. That's a huge win.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. And I do think this is one of a lot of people's obstacles. The people in their life can potentially be an obstacle, and in feeling confident in saying what you want to do and being okay with that and then following through is a skill set. We talked about this at Fitme event, that there are things that we think are character traits, but they're actually a skill set. And so advocating for yourself or saying, yeah, this is what I'm going to do confidently isn't a character trait. It's a skill set. You can learn the language around that. You can have open communication, kind of like Julie said, where you're like, work on our communication. Like you can have a plan. You can plan in treats that work for you. Those are skill sets. That's not like I'm not a person who can do that kind of thing. Let's talk about a couple more obstacles. So we talked about the people one. Let's talk about burnout and exhaustion. So Megan, that's what you put on as one of your big obstacles. What do you mean?
I think it's just to get the cycle of keeping up with my schedule. You know, like it's if I get behind on anything, I just feel absolutely overwhelmed right now, because it's like, and the like energy level that I have to maintain throughout all of it, you know, just sometimes it's just really tough. So like it's different movement, and like it's just that's what I kind of tend to limit the most of, because it's like, okay, I've been on my feet all day, like I've been, you know, it's just that same cycle of every week, like not feeling prepared.
Mm-hmm. You and Sarah both said the same thing, which is that schedule or overwhelm and tired. I think the biggest practical strategy for overcoming fatigue and overwhelm is front load, which what that means is that like there are going to be times of your week that are potentially more chaotic and exhausting than others. Like, I think we know what that feels like on Friday night. We're just like tapped. We're done. We don't have any cares left. And we're like, whatever, let's just do whatever tonight. That feeling, you don't always feel like that. So if you are somebody who regularly struggles with overwhelm and fatigue, we have to find the times in both our week and our day where we have the most capacity. So for some people, that's going to be first thing in the morning. And so if you're like, if the movement piece is hard, for example, and again, this is like going to have to be specific to your life, because not everybody can just figure out this exactly the way I'm saying. But if you're like, there is no way I'm doing movement at the end of the day, I am exhausted. I've been on my feet all day. I've been doing all the things. that means your movement has to happen first thing. That means you get up and you give yourself 20 minutes and you knock it out. That's what that would look like in order for you to be able to fight the exhaustion and overwhelm. And it's similar with planning, like in the heat of it, you know, on a Wednesday, you're probably not going to be coming up with the best meals, but maybe you've got more capacity on Sunday morning. Maybe Sunday morning's quiet time. Nobody's up yet. Nobody's bugging you yet. And you could actually sit there and plan things out on Sunday. That's your window. And so there's no magic ticket when life makes you exhausted. I mean, Amy, Coach Amy and I have had this conversation so many times. She's on here right now. I can't just snap my fingers and be like, all right, Amy, be less tired with your 4 kids and your pregnant belly and all the things that you juggle. Like, it's just not going to happen. So we really have to be strategic about when are things happening. And you know what? A lot of people think that, oh, I have to do the things Monday through Friday. They imagine like, oh, I need to do strength training 4 days a week. How am I going to fit it in Monday through Friday? Well, for some people, maybe they do better strength training on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because life's just not so crazy then. So you can fit in your strength workouts Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you're only trying to fit in one during the week. And so again, you get to figure out what works best for you. But for the people who have straight chaos and exhaustion, when is the key? Not if, it's when. And then giving yourself grace. So if this week you hoped for 4 and you got in 2, well, great. Let's go again next week. Let's try again for what you want and make it happen the best that you can. But I love that you brought that one up because I know for sure that's a thing. Go ahead, Amy.
I think the other thing too that helps me a lot is that if I can only get a walk in, a 10-minute walk, say I have like a crazy busy day, but I know I can get a 10-minute walk in that morning. I turn on a podcast or listen to music and it's sanity check time. Like, life is chaotic and that movement for me is like sanity check. So like, Megan, I know how busy your life is. And so maybe it's like 5 minutes as you're walking into school, listening to some music, and you're just getting some movement in just to kind of start that habit. Because I look at it as sanity. Like, my movement time is my sanity time. If I don't get it, bad things happen.
Yeah. And I mean, even yesterday. So for example, yesterday evening, I was like, oh, cool. I've got an hour to go do my workout. And it was 6 o'clock at night. I didn't have the brain space for it. It was too late in the day for me. It was taking too long. I couldn't do it. Like, I was coming up with 55 reasons why I couldn't do it. It was the timing that was messing me up. Whereas if I had done that, tried to do that same exact workout earlier in the day, it would have taken less time because my brain would have been like in the right space for it. And so again, like, I don't know. I love Amy's suggestion about maybe treat movement like a mental break and see if that doesn't help squeeze it in.
And it can
Tio
start
had
with
a good
like
one.
2 minutes at a time. Sorry. It doesn't have to be
two minutes
solid. Yeah.
2 minutes at a time is good. And you know what? 5 push-ups at a time is a good thing, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. 10 squats when you get up from the toilet. Like,
be like, hey, I want to get in 50 of everything before lunchtime. So that means I'm going to do 10 squats, 10 push-ups, and 10 whatevers 5 different times before lunchtime. And they all take 30 seconds. And then before you know it, before now at lunchtime, you've done 50, 50, 50. You're done. It just takes a little scrappiness. So Tio said that mine is just not owning it, having a fairly healthy emergency backup. I'm pretending it will just happen. So Tio, tell us what you're talking about. You're still muted. Hold on. Let me see if that helps.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Well, I felt like your Fitme talk about owning it was directly to me. I felt like you were just talking to me. because I think that's something that after you had that talk, I thought that's part of my problem. I'm just not owning it. I'm not saying this is mine. I have to do it. And I don't have to do it. I get to do this for my own health. And so one thing I was thinking about is there's times when I come home and I'm just tired and I have stuff in the fridge. I just don't feel like doing it. And so I've been thinking about this idea of having a fairly healthy emergency meal so that I just always tell myself, I'm always going to have this chicken here. I'm always going to have a salad available. And I'm always going to have, I forget what it was, some other carb, and just make it a point and say, every Sunday, I'm going to make sure this stuff is in my fridge. And when that day rolls around, and I know it will, it'll be okay because I'll have my emergency meal plan ready to go. And then I just execute.
I really like that. I think it's funny and really smart that you're calling it like a fairly healthy emergency backup. Like, I think it's smart. It's like, this is something I know I like, doesn't take a lot of mental space, and I've got it in the house always.
Right. But I've been so passive about it. Like, it'll just magically happen without me putting forth the effort to think about it and make it happen. And that's part of that owning it.
Yeah, there's a funny, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Christy. One thing that made Tio, oh, it's Paige. One thing that Tio said that made me think, that made me think about, hey, owning it or having something maybe healthy in your fridge. I think Christy recommended this to me some time ago. Often I had meal prepped, like actual, I'll say, like chicken burrito bowls. Everything in there that was needed, the veggies, the rice, the chicken. And I don't know, one day I had so many, and for whatever reason, the kids hadn't eaten them. And I was looking at 4 of those meal prep containers that were in my fridge. I didn't want it to go bad. And I thought, well, stick them in the freezer. And so when I do get home and I'm exhausted, my entire Fitme plate is in a bowl in the container in the freezer. Pop it in the microwave and voila. No thought, no nothing, grab and go.
I do this for camping. I have learned this just in the last month, and I put it in chat, but I make a meal that's fit me and I put it in a freezer bag, flatten it out, and put it in the freezer. And I always make extras so that I always have something to go to when I don't want to cook something. And a lot of times that happens when we're camping and we're leaving Thursday and we'll be back Tuesday. But but it just works. It takes the thought right out of it.
Yeah, it seems so obvious, right? We say it and we're like, just make extra and freeze it. But it's not obvious in the moment. But this is a really practical strategy. And again, like we're getting ready to be in the fall season of making crock pot style things. So if you're going to buy all the ingredients for like a really good turkey chili, or you're going to buy all the ingredients for, some kind of soup, right? And it's going to have vegetables and meat and basically be like a Fitme plate in a pot. Why not buy double? You're going to do all the work. It's not going to take you much more work to buy double. One of them goes in the crock pot for the week. The other gets put in a freezer bag, thrown in, the freezer. And then the next time you're in a struggle bus, a couple months from now, like in December, and you're like, oh, it's Tuesday, you've got already put together crock pot meal that you've prepped, and it's just throw it in and let it cook. It really doesn't take much more time if you're already going to do the prep. So one of the other things that I was thinking when Tio was talking was there's these 2 concepts that are right next door to each other, where people think in order to make progress, they have to be obsessive and all in. And they're like, I don't want to be obsessive and all in, right? Like I'm not, you don't want to be like the all or nothing person that has to eat everything out of a container. You can't deviate, you can't do life, that kind of thing. And that you're obsessed with your food. Like we know that we don't want to be that. But the myth is that that is the same as ownership. So when I have seen in all of my coaching time, people make a significant lifestyle shift and they make a really big change. People start to notice and they're like, you just do things differently now. Like you eat differently, like you're proactive, you're whatever. It's not because they're obsessed. It's because they're owning it. And those things look a little bit similar from the outside. Like if you've ever met someone who's obsessive about their food, and you're like, oh, like you're just doing the thing. You're like from the outside, you're like, oh, you're doing a thing, right? But they're not doing it in a way that's balanced and sustainable. They're just, they pack their food to the party. They're refusing to eat other stuff. They're like, 100% full send diet. That is not the same as owning it and having people notice that you're doing something differently. Those two things kind of look similar, but they're not. And I don't know anybody who makes a significant lifestyle shift and doesn't have the ownership piece. So we hit a couple big obstacles for people. We hit people, that's a big one. Partners, spouses, kids. We talked about exhaustion and overwhelm, and we talked about follow through, just being able to own your commitment and stick to it and give yourself some strategies like Tio's emergency backup meal, or what Julie was saying about having extra stuff in the freezer. I think that those are really practical, and we don't have to talk about every obstacle in the sun, under the sun. These are big ones. What we just talked about, these three, these are the big ones. Mentally committing to follow through, people, and fatigue and exhaustion. Those are huge. And I think everybody should have some like practical strategies for overcoming those obstacles. And the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. So if you think about an obstacle course, okay, a literal obstacle course. Now I want you to take your brain there, like a Tough Mudder situation. I don't know if you've ever done one. You walk up to an obstacle for the first time, and maybe it's a barrel and it's on its side and it looks crazy and there's some like wire and nonsense and some mud, and you're like, how am I going to get up and over this barrel? Like the very first time you do it, you might not know. You actually might stop for a second and watch somebody else go up and over the barrel. You're like, okay, I just saw how they did it. Like, let me see if I can do it. And you do it. And you might be uncertain when you're doing and overcoming the obstacle the first time. It might feel very tentative. But the more times you approach that obstacle, the more confident you get and the more capable you are of dealing with it. And so there is no, like, one of my favorite books is Ryan Holiday. He wrote the book, The Obstacle is the Way. And it's about stoicism, really, but it's also about this concept of, in order to develop the skill set that you want to have for your healthy lifestyle, we cannot avoid the obstacles. How we navigate them, how we move over them is the actual path to changing your lifestyle. So learning how to have the conversation with your family or your people in your life, learning to have backup plans, learning how to organize your calendar so that you actually can fit stuff in even when you're tired and life is chaos. These obstacles are your actual pathway. And so instead of feeling like, ugh, another obstacle, think, okay, this is another opportunity. This is a chance for me to develop this skill set. And the first time going through it, I may have no idea how to do this, I may need to see someone else. I may need to ask for help. It may feel tentative and uncertain, but the more that I do it, the more doable it becomes. And so that's kind of your closing thought for this Sunday Fitme family meeting, is the obstacle is the path. Own the obstacles just like you own the wins, and say, I'm going to figure out how to do this. This is my real life, and move through it without pass fail. It's not necessarily going to look perfect the first time. You go over that barrel, you might fall off the back end, right in the mud. But you did it. Next time, probably won't fall down. Sweet, guys. Let's take a quick pick before we wrap up. Your target for the week is to discuss your specific obstacles with your coach. The big ones, not every obstacle under the sun. What is the big obstacle for you that gets in the way of your consistency? Talk about it with your coach. Make sure you have a game plan for what to do, that you are going to try to navigate that obstacle. All right, camera's on for a second. If you can, you take our picture. Look at you, Sarah, laying down, looking so cute upside down. Oh no, my camera just died. Hold on, hang tight. When in doubt, iPad. Okay, it's not too, we got this. Hang on, guys. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And you got to smile for a long time. Okay, got it. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. All right, you guys have a fantastic week. Reach out if you need anything. We will talk soon. Take care. Bye.